Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the ChrisVossShow.com. Hey, we're coming here with another podcast, so thanks for tuning in. We certainly appreciate you guys as an audience. And I'm welcomed today by a gentleman named Nicholas Rizzo. Nicholas, welcome to the podcast. How you doing, buddy?
Great, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. And thanks for tuning in, everyone. Be sure you give us a like, subscribe to us on YouTube, hit that bell notification, and subscribe, all that good stuff. So, Nicholas, tell us about you. I know you're a coach and you do lots of different things. Tell us about you. Give us some plugs, where to find you on the internet so we can look you up as we're talking, and let's find out more about you.
Sweet. So you can find me at strivenlife.com. And that is, so the brand is all around the concept of helping entrepreneurs live a life where they're driven to consistently strive for success in all aspects of life to build a better you, a better business, a better life. Because that's kind of what we're all looking for, I think. Specifically, I coach entrepreneurs with ADHD. It's something I kind of fell into once I started to realize that, I had ADHD, and it took a lot of work, time, effort, and intentional kind of planning and experimenting with the things that I do with myself personally and with my business in order to start making actual growth or momentum. And then that kind of just fell into coaching as I started interacting with other entrepreneurs who had ADHD, who were struggling with the problems that I had before.
It seems to be that ADHD or ADD is what they call the CEO's disease. There's a certain element that seems to be in a lot of driven people that are afflicted by that madness that make them the driven CEOs that they are. And so it's kind of always been interesting to me, having horrible ADHD myself, it's something that drives you and gives you an incredible amount of psychotic ambition. And a lot of CEOs have it, evidently.
Yeah, it's definitely something that kind of gives you a personality type. There's more and more kind of studies and blogs and articles coming out talking about how the ADHD population are more driven to go the entrepreneur route because we just, for whatever reason, don't seem to fit well within the typical corporate or 9-to-5 structure. We run a group right now called the ADHD Entrepreneur and Career Community. And that's the exact issue that so many of the people on that career path are having, is not being able to maintain a job, not because they don't have the skills or they're not capable, they're not passionate enough. It's just they don't fit within that structure. I mean, I used to be a teacher for 4 years. You would think taking attendance would be the easiest thing to do. Kids walk in, you call out their names, and you're good to go. But I would set reminders on my phones. I'd had kids telling me to remind me to take the attendance. But as soon as kids walked in, that was it. Like, my attention was just on that. And I was like, oh, wait, I got to start class. Okay, let me do this. And then before you know it, it's 3 periods later and you haven't taken attendance for first period. It's the simplest things like that that just kind of slip out of our grasp because, of what we have.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenging thing. And it's an interesting kind of, I don't know that you call it a disease, but it's an interesting affliction to have because you can accomplish a lot with it, but then sometimes you reach a point with it where you're so scattered and so distracted and so going 10 different places, and sometimes there's destruction involved, where you're either abusive in your relationships, your communications, to a point that it almost sometimes seems like you're destroying almost faster than you create. The creative element, I used to really enjoy being able to come up with ideas, create, think of new stuff, innovate. I always liked the aspect of the madness that way. Some of the darker madness was, of course, the anger, the frustration, the lashing out, that sort of thing. I don't know if everyone has that as ADD, but I went through my bad phases of it.
Well, so I mean, there's as I'm like been digging deeper and deeper into trying to understand myself because of this and understand my clients, is I'm learning more and more. And every time I learn something new, it's like, all right, well, this makes my life make a lot more sense now. I mean, I didn't get diagnosed until my 3 weeks before I graduated college. So when I found out, I was like, well, this is why everything takes me forever to do. But on that the topic of the emotional aspect, individuals with ADHD have I can't think of the word now. It's emotional.
I think I know what you're referring to.
Yeah, and essentially we're just very prone
Emotional
to
intelligence.
well, there's that too. That's another topic. We're extremely empathetic. But we have, I guess you just call them mood swings to make it really simple, where one little thing can
That's
get us
called menopause. No, I'm just kidding.
And that's the thing though. It's like we're so prone to really intense swings in our moods based upon what's happening on our day to day and how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about what's going on in our lives.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing. I went through a very hard time of it, and sometimes being an entrepreneur, and then of course your business starting to get fairly successful or at least fairly busy, it can cause a lot of problems. I remember the first time my business partner had a panic attack, and he thought he was having a heart attack. We rushed him to the ER, and he was having a panic attack, and I remember when the doc just said, no, he's just having a panic attack. I'm like, well, I go through what he goes through every day. I just kind of figured that was normal.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's people that feel that way too.
I just figured my chest hurting and I shut down with so much stress that I had to go to sleep just to relax again. That was just normal for me. I'm like, it's just like a day. And I've known a lot of great CEOs, and I've known the CEO disease that's in them. And sometimes they're usually very incredible, creative people, just incredible machines of innovation. But then there's the destructive side. A great example of that is Steve Jobs. I mean, he was an incredible innovator, incredible thinker, incredible designer. But then he was a jerk, incredible jerk.
Yeah.
And if you watch some of the recent documentaries on Steve Jobs about some of the people who work for him, one of my good friends worked with Steve, and he didn't shed a tear the day Steve died because Steve was so ugly to him, and his family too. So there's that yin and yang of it, where you have this incredible ability to create at a maddening level, and then there's the wrecking ball part of it that can be very destructive, and it's hard to balance those two. So what do you do with your clients? How do you counsel people and walk through this sort of thing? You said you have a Facebook group and different things. What's sort of like maybe an example or procedure maybe you would like to share?
So, for example, on like the personal side, not just specifically on the business aspect, it's all about shifting your mindset about viewing ADHD as a gift rather than a negative thing, right? Because once we could put certain habits or processes or systems in place for ourselves, it starts to eliminate those negative symptoms that come with it. So, for one thing, obviously, ADHD is an attention deficit disorder, and when we're entrepreneurs and we have to be working and putting stuff together and being creative and staying on task in order to be really effective, one simple thing is just essentially building a routine around how you work and a process to how you work. So for example, I was on a call yesterday with a new client, and the first thing I gave her to do when the call ended was, for now on, when you go to wake up in the morning, because we with ADHD, we like the flexibility. If we really want to do something, we'll do it well. But if we wake up and say, hey, I was supposed to write a blog post today, and you don't feel like writing, it's not going to get done. So wake up tomorrow morning, identify the 3 to 5 things that you have on your list of tasks that you need to do for your business, and say, what are the ones that I'm most excited about doing today? Identify those and write them down. Identify a block, a nice 2-hour time block of time for you to work on it. And before you sit down to work on it, prepare yourself to work with intention, right? So write down, on this next 30 minutes of this time, I'm going to be working on this task. And if you're working at a computer, well, Facebook, email, all that stuff is like the antichrist of productivity for us. As soon as the notification pops up, I've even tried to all right, just don't click on it. And then I'm fighting myself. Oh, just don't click on it. 5 minutes later, I'm on Facebook. I'm like, God damn, it got me again. Right. So identify what are the tabs that actually have to be open for me to get this done, and don't let anything else be open. And what do I actually need in my room with me that's going to, 1, eliminate distractions, and 2, make it so I don't have to get up and leave or have this impulse to go somewhere else in my house in order to do something. And before you do all that, identify at least one thing that you do that makes you feel better. So for me, today was a perfect example. I usually wake up, read, and I do yoga and a little bit of meditation because those things have been shown to increase dopamine. And ADHD is a dopamine deficiency disorder. And it's, our regulation of those things aren't like neurotypicals. So I was doing some errands with my wife, so I didn't do that stuff yet. And I was in a really pissy mood. And she was like, "Are you okay? Like, do you want to talk? Did I do something?" And I'm like, "No, I just didn't do my yoga yet." Like, and I know it sounds so corny, but I came back, and as soon as I did it, and I went out after I finished, I was talking to my wife, and I'm just in such a better mood, and I have the ability to focus, and my energy's up, and so identify one thing like that and do it directly before you work, because you want to put yourself in the position where you know what you have to do, you've eliminated the distractions, your brain and your body is all good to go, and you're more productive and focused.
Yeah, between email and social media, they really don't help as not being distractions that can. I can spend all day on Facebook if I don't pull myself away from it, screaming. But yeah, it's interesting to me. I grew up with ADHD. I was kind of a special child. I didn't go to college and didn't feel like I had to. Created my first business at 18, never really looked back. And growing up in school, I flunked out a lot, usually on purpose, because I was just like, I just don't care about this stupid class of whatever, and I don't think I'm going to need it, and I just really don't care. And of course, book learning was something that was, doesn't really work well when you're ADD. If you showed me something and you could walk me through it, I could master it. And the sad part is on one hand, maybe there are some kids that need a little bit of chemical regulation, but the sad part is our society just kind of tosses us to the side or throws us away or tries to chemically lobotomize us. And that's really the wrong thing to do. I wish schools were more like in Europe, where they took a look at, the different personality traits, behavior traits that we had, and went, this person is kind of good for that. And it is interesting that we do turn out to be what they call the CEO disease. So parents, if you're out there, maybe you want to take better care of understanding your child with ADD. But I do think it's sad that a lot of kids are chemically lobotomized that have ADD, and that probably makes it worse once they come off the chemicals and get into real life, and they don't have a really good way to grasp or manage the symptoms of what they had. Not like you have a good one when you're in that state of madness, but certainly over the years, it's really helped to be able
I completely agree. It's, I won't start talking about the education system because I'll just start getting really angry. But it's that thing is that they see that oh, you're diagnosed ADHD, here's your medication, and they give it to so many kids. Like I had so many of my students who were labeled with ADD or ADHD, and they were just given medication. And then, I came really close to my students, and so they would talk to me about all of that kind of stuff, like what they're going through in their life, and if they had ADHD, I was pretty open about me having it, so they come and talk to me. And I would ask, what else is is there support in the school working with you on in order to kind of overcome this, or your therapist, or what is your, and it was nothing. And I think that people don't understand is that although you may have ADHD, some things are more difficult for you, other things are easier for you than others. But the things that are more difficult for you, those are skills that we can improve upon. I remember this one student I had my freshman year. Her freshman year of high school, she came in and was always failed her classes. And it wasn't until I was like, all right, this is what we're going to start doing, laid out a system and a process so that way she could increase her ability to have time on task. It's just something simple like that, And by the end of the second quarter, she went from only really being able to be productive for 10 minutes to 45 minutes. And her mom was like, this is amazing. That's insane. She's never been able to do this before, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's just a skill set. It's going to be harder. It's going to be more difficult. But if you put the time and the effort, it works. And the same thing too is I feel like a lot of places, especially schools in America, this is the exact way you have to do X, Y, or Z, or you must have a binder with this there and this there and this there, or have this agenda book. And we don't work like that. Like, it's just not the case. We need to create our own systems of how we work, because it's just not, those weren't created for us. They were created for those neurotypical students who can come in, listen to you preach at them for like 45 minutes, take it all in, and do everything you say dot by dot, letter by letter. And that's just not the same thing. And there's no, there's not enough support or understanding from the schools, from families, from therapists, and then from the students themselves. They just see themselves as defective a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking.
People kind of treat you and give you this aspect where you feel like you're the lecherous, outcast of society. That's, you're the screwed up one because you can't, follow the line of the. I always think of the "We Don't Need No Education" videos from Pink Floyd, where they're just in the machine sort of line of pumping out students, and everybody has to conform to the same sort of lemming sort of thing, and well, that's great for some people. It's not for others. It's kind of funny. I really think we should carve out like a whole separate school for kids with ADD and be like, here's the school for you guys and what you guys do. And that would probably become some sort of super CEO school, I would think.
Well, I think that too, it comes down to the basics of stigma and not understanding, right? Yep. I remember there's a client, Amelia, I have about 4 or 5 months ago. She said, when she said it, it was like, damn, that's so true, but that's so messed up. And it's that she almost wishes that we had an actual physical disability that someone could see, because then at least then they would understand our issue, rather than they can't see it. So we're just coined as being lazy or unintelligent or incapable or unorganized or not professional. And it's like when you hear someone actually say that to you, and it's like, shit, man, that's wow. Like, seriously. And it sucks. And that's the thing. It's all a stigma. I mean, when I got diagnosed, I called my parents like 2 days later, and I told them. My mom's like, you're just looking for excuses. You're just being lazy. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Let's go with that. And I think if teachers understood, and if like the administration understood and like actually built things specifically to help them within the school systems, like the way they do, special needs students or English language learners and things like that, like they have their own section of the school where I was at teaching. There was a whole separate department of teachers who taught English language learners with special processes and special ways in order to help them, which is amazing. But when are we going to get that differentiation for, ADHD?
Yeah, and it sometimes is a very debilitating disease. I remember when I was a teenager, I would go down to check the front door. When I was living at home, I would go down and check the front door sometimes 20 times in a night. And I would go down and check the front door to see if it was locked, and then I'd go back to bed, and then my brain would start messing with me and go, did you check that door tonight? And you'd be like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I checked the door. And then you better go check that door. And then it just starts screwing with you. And then you go check the door, and you go back to bed, and then the whole thing just rinse and repeat, starts over again. And then you start, checking the door 20 times a night. For my brother, he had really bad ADHD to a point that we had to put him on Ritalin, and he was having a lot of functioning problems with it. He's a good kid, but he would scrub his hands so much that they would bleed because he would just, scrub them with soap and stuff. And it can be really debilitating in things like that, unless you learn to manage it, or maybe get some drugs to take the edge off, Zoloft or whatever the case may be, Prozac.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think what you're saying before too about how like those ideas kept popping in your head, like, is that door closed? Is that door shut? Do I need to go do this? It's the same thing that applies to, like, I work with entrepreneurs with ADHD, and it's that same thing applies to their business side too. The amount of times that, we had a post in the group the other day, because we had like 50 new members this week in the group. And I just kind of like, hey, what is it that you do? Why did you join, and what are you looking for help in? And one woman posted, and it was like, she posted 7 different links to 7 different websites she owns, to 7 different businesses. and was like, and none of these are working. And because I'm like, well, that's why. It's like we have so many ideas and we don't know how to, one, just planning, like taking the time to intentionally plan. This is the direction I'm going to go. This is where I want to go. This is how I'm going to get there. And these are the actions I need to take in order to do so. Right? Once you break it down to that simple level of these are the tasks laid out for me that I need to accomplish in order to move forward, well, then you start to see the progress, you start to see the growth, and you get more excited and more passionate about that individual project. Where this woman didn't see that for any of them immediately because they were just big picture ideas, which we're so damn good at creating. But it's the execution, it's the planning, it's the intentional actions and organization that we struggle with. And it's just funny because that reminded me of that, just we get ourselves off track with the constant ideas. It's a little frustrating at times.
What really worked for me in business that helped me be successful was I got a business partner who was really good at doing the boring stuff, doing the mundane stuff, doing the stuff that drives me insane. And I could come up with really cool innovations. I could come up with really cool ideas. I could build really neat systems. But then when it came to doing them daily and maintaining them, that just drives me insane. And so what I could do is go, here's the model. He could take it. He could take and apply it. And he just loved doing that. He loved doing that every day, the same old repetition, mundane tasks, the sort of things that you or I, we're just like, I got to do what again today? What? But it worked out to be a good relationship and a good business partnership because, there were some times where I would say to him, I go, look, we've got to problem solve this issue with the company. Here's a yellow pad. Go home this weekend. Come back with just any ideas. Just write whatever you got down. Figure it out. Just put anything on paper. And he'd come back with a blank tablet, and I'd be like, you didn't have any ideas? And me, I got like 5,000 ideas on my plate. And so it ended up being a perfect compliment because I could be that visionary, idea-centric, innovative CEO, and he could be the guy who that sort of thing scared him, and he didn't really want to be like out there where I got to think of something, just show up and I'll do it. And so sometimes having people like that around you that can balance you out and they can do some of the stupid work that you don't want to do is a great way to get successful in business, I think.
Yeah, I think finding that partner that is that great balance for you is huge. And it's interesting now because I'm in the process of starting a collaboration with another ADHD life coach who has ADHD. So it's funny because like I know that the things that we struggle with are going to become an issue unless we like intentionally try to figure out a way that we're going to handle them and like really make sure we're accountable on those things, despite how much we may hate doing them. But it's the same thing is like for like my wife, she does not have ADHD, and everything is planned, everything has a purpose, everything has a place, everything she's like that super traditional Portuguese, like gung-ho, everything has to go a specific way. And it's like, it's funny because you're saying that, like, I think if I was in a relationship with another person with ADHD, it probably wouldn't go so well because she balances me out. And like the things that I suck at, she's awesome at. The things she struggles with, I'm great at. And so we help each other out that way. It's a nice little team. So the same thing applies to a business too.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure is. And even then, I'll never forget, I didn't grow up back when I went through my issues with ADHD. No one really knew what they were. My brother was like off the chart. And so, he had the drugs, and compared to me, I guess I wasn't as bad. I think I wasn't hiding mine. I just didn't, like, no one really paid attention to it. And I was kind of a quiet kid. So I just kept the insanity, I guess, in my brain. And so stupid stuff like checking the door 20 times a night to make sure it's locked. And it's funny because sometimes I'd sit there and I'd be like, I've gone down there 10 times to check that door. I know that door is locked. And your brain's like, but what if it's not? Someone could come in and kill the whole family. I checked the door. Was that yesterday or last week, or was that tonight? You're like, you're messing with me. And so, yeah, it's just like whatever. So when I started my first business, it got really bad. And in the second business, it got even crazier. And I remember one time I was having these severe anxiety attacks where I would stress out, and literally I would stress out so much with tightening on my body that I would have to take a nap. And then I would go to sleep for several hours. I'd wake up, and for about 10 minutes, I feel like a human being again. And then I just start this whole stress rage. And a lot of it was sourcing my stomach, where I tense up my stomach, and then my whole body would just become this tense muscle. And so one day, and I was having these headaches and brain things. So one day I remember, I'll never forget, I wandered in one night. I was tired of this crap. Wandered into a Instacare. And I said, I don't know what's going on. I'm losing it. My health is going and deteriorating. I'm having these brain problems. I think I probably have brain cancer or tumor. And I'll never forget the poor nurse. She looked at me and she goes, well, you have anxiety. And I go, and I looked at her, and you know how we are. Like 5 seconds, I'm ready to rip her head off. And I said to her, I said, what the fuck do you mean I got anxiety? Like, yeah, I got anxiety. I got fear. I got happiness. I got sadness. I got anxiety. What the hell are you telling me? And she's like, well, okay, let's talk about what you got here. You got no anxiety, and she explained what anxiety was, and I still even had a hard time. Like the whole time I was sitting there going, this woman is full of crap. And what was really nice is they gave me some pretty much elephant tranquilizers. That I could take 2 of them and I could become a normal person. And then 9 months later, when I was weaning myself off them, if I took like a quarter of one, I would end up falling asleep. That's how freaking high jacked up I was on ADD. But yeah, I'll never forget. I really didn't understand the disease, and didn't have any sort of, no one else around me knew what the disease was. They just kind of went, that boy's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely harder too. If you go back, like it's not until like the past 5-10 years that people are starting to get really serious, but understanding it. And the same thing goes for anxiety. Like the amount of like students that I had that were from traditional families that they had anxiety, like a diagnosed anxiety, but their families just kind of ignored it and didn't see it as a thing, or didn't want to talk about it because it was like taboo to talk about emotional issues or things like that. And I think that's even more difficult for those who kind of went through that 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, because it just wasn't a thing yet that people really, like you said, they just kind of looked at you like, oh, well, you're crazy.
You're crazy. Let's give the kid a lobotomy, or let's chemically induce him. Or reduce them, maybe so. So what are some of the other things that you do with the coaching and some of the different advice or techniques maybe that work well for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, if anyone wants to check out, I have an ebook about the ADHD Entrepreneur Advantage, 9 different ways to set yourself up for yourself and your business up for success. You can check it out at chevronlife.com/ADHD Advantage. So I talk about 9 different ways to kind of just simple things to get people started so they can kind of start doing something for themselves. But one thing that was huge, and it kind of goes back to that, that same conversation about you arguing with yourself, did I do this? Did I not? Making sure you did those steps, like closing your door. So for me, it's, every time I do a Facebook Live, there's a whole process of stuff that I do. So instead of just saying, all right, I'm going to do my Facebook Live and then do that stuff afterwards and like not really be 100% sure is what I actually have to do, is I make a system. It's just a step-by-step process, write it out. And why? Because we have that issue where we're not sure. It's like, did I do that? I'm not sure. What step am I on? I have no idea. And before I started doing that, I would mess up so many different parts. I have a couple of different apps and softwares that I use to help me kind of repurpose everything. And then I would skip a step. So now I'm shooting out links to people. Do step 2. So I started writing them out. And the next thing is all about just making the things that need to be visible, right? If it's out of sight for us, it's out of mind. There's no, I can't do digital calendars or scheduling or stuff like that because I will never go and look at it. But if it's in a planner and it's directly in front of me on my desk, I see it, it's in my head, and I know to make sure I use it daily. So those, like literally on my wall is like, I have my monthly calendar planned out. I have different systems for different things I'm doing in my business. So that way it just increases, one, my confidence in that if I do this, I know I'm doing it all right. Two, it makes sure we don't make any mistakes, and it increases our efficiency and our productivity, because it's just, okay, I did this task, cross it off. What's the next task? Okay, do that. I'm done. Cross this off. And it's just simple processes and routines like that. They help dramatically. And at the same time, a lot of people they struggle with that whole self-confidence thing, because the simplest things that other people think are easy are hard for us. And so as we start doing these like simple things at first with some of my clients, the reason why I focus on those first is just because it's something that's going to make you realize that you can improve, that you can make progress, that you can start to leverage ADHD as a strength if you have the things that are necessary to allow you to do that in place. And then from there, there's more kind of detailed, complex process that we go towards. But you got to start small and build that confidence in you before you can start trying to take on this massive, project or goal that you have. It's about just kind of taking it easy and simple at first.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, for me, I'm a person that likes a lot of freedom. I don't keep an alarm clock. I like waking up at different times. There's times I live in Las Vegas, and one of the things I like about living here is it's a 24-hour city. So if I want to go on like my vampire rages where I'm up all night, sleep all day, I can do that. I can still function where there's stores and everything going on around me. But I've never been, I still to this day, I'm 49 years old. I'm still this day, do not have an alarm clock, do not wake up at the same time every morning. It's difficult. In fact, recently as we restarted the podcast, I was doing some hospice care for about 1.5 years. Restarting the podcast, I finally had to sit down and go, okay, we're going to work a calendar. And I'm doing fairly good. I'm working a calendar now for the first time in 49 years, where I'm sitting down with the calendar and going, okay, put in that date and time there. My brain's like going, I'll do it when I want. And you're like, no, we have to have people on the podcast that set the date. We got to work together on this. So put that in there. And it's definitely a challenge. And I know a lot of people struggle with it and struggle to be sometimes. I imagine some people really fail at business and some people are really successful. But sometimes when they're successful, they're the biggest pains in the butts they can ever be. And I know I've been guilty of being just a horrible person, probably more so than not.
No, yeah, and I think like what you're talking about too is about that structure, and we don't like structure, but we also recognize that we need structure, because when we don't have it, we realize that we have those mistakes or mishaps, or like for example, I think it was like 3 months ago, I had 3 different people schedule calls with me at the same time because I was doing it through Messenger, and then like, oh yeah, I have a call, sweet, and like I just put a sticky note somewhere, and then I realized like a day before, I was like, I literally scheduled 3 people for the same time. Like, so that's when I was like, I can never do this again. And I need to get real about my scheduling and my calendar and my organizer. And it's like, we know we don't like structure, but we need structure in some regard. So it's about finding that middle ground, the structure that allows us to be kind of intentional with our actions and our planning and stuff, but doesn't say, okay, that means you need to wake up at 8 o'clock every day. And then at this time is when you start your work. And at this time you take your break. And because everyone else, I mean, like if I look at my dad's woke up at 4:15 a.m. every morning, my entire life.
Yeah.
I've never seen him like sleep in past that. He wakes up before his alarm clock goes off every day. And when he comes home, he walks in, he puts the briefcase down to the right by the stairs. He goes in, he makes his lunch for the next day, packs a little bag of Cheerios, opens his briefcase, puts it in there, goes upstairs. Like that whole, everything is routine, robotic kind of stuff. We can't do that, but we can bring enough structure in that only empowers us and still allows us to kind of have that freedom and flexibility. And that's been the biggest thing for me and some of my clients.
That's one of the things I've learned is to have that, I don't know, that second voice or that control voice in the head that's constantly babysitting Mr. ADD and going, you need to get off the Facebook tab and we need to focus on this email right here, and trying to get really good with that muscle in my brain of, let's focus on this email. No, don't go to the next email. Don't read that pop-up email. Let's finish replying to this email, and then, okay, let's go to the next one. And, stuff like that. Or, what do I need to accomplish today? You bring up a good point, focusing on the top 3 to 5 most important things, or maybe most exciting things, like you said, or things that you really want to accomplish the most, can be something that can really help you be successful. I remember back in the day, I think it was Robert Allen from The Acres of Diamonds, or it was Earl Nightingale, but they told the story. I think it was Earl Nightingale told the story, but I think he got it from Robert Allen, or one of those Clement Stone, or one of those guys back in the day. And he told the story of a guy who worked at IBM or something like that, one of these really big companies. I believe it was IBM. And the CEO, and there was a consultant one day, and he was trying to get business and get a hookup with the CEO for some business for his consulting firm. And he went in and he met with the CEO, and he's like, hey, I got this consulting problem. And, the CEO's like, I can't use any of your services. It's not helping me. And, he inquired of the CEO. He's like, what is it you really need? He goes, I'll tell you what I need. And he goes, if you can resolve this issue, I will pay you whatever you want within reason, if you can resolve it. And he said, the problem I have is everyone is at me. There's so much stuff to do every day. And when I come in, nothing gets done because there's just so much noise and so much demand for my time and effort. At the end of the day, I don't get done what I'm supposed to get done. And so the consultant said, well, I'll go work on that and see if I can come up with some ideas. So he went back and he came up with the system, much like what you talk about, where he would tell the CEO, he says, every night before you go to bed, take and write down the 3 to 5 things, 6 things that you've got to do the next day. The most important things that you have to accomplish. The rest is just gravy if you get to it. But the most important things that you have to do that day, and then rank them in order of hierarchy as most important that you need to get done. Sometimes I cheat and I just do the easiest one first, just so I can get rid of it. And then, give my brain a little Snickers bar, like, good boy. But so he went back to the CEO with this plan, told him how to do it, told him to implement it. The CEO implemented it. And they say it's one of the things that took IBM into the stratosphere, becoming a huge company. And and this is back in the day, like the 20s and 30s or whatever, 40s, 50s. And he was, the CEO sent him a check for like 25 grand because it was such a rich idea. The CEO put all of his executives on the system and everything else. And I've tried to kind of use that over the years. I've been bad at it, but I always try and get better. But yeah, constantly having that babysitter in my head to go, focus, Chris, focus, Chris,
Yeah. No, I think we all have that, right? Like it's almost, it reminds me almost like meditation, like you're watching your thoughts. And when you get off of the track of like your breath, you acknowledge you're thinking about something else, and then you say, okay, let's let that go and focus back on the thing I need to be right now. And it's the same stuff that, you're talking about when it comes to like all these different tabs or what we're doing when we're supposed to be doing something else. And it's interesting because it really is all about really being fully engaged with what you're doing and being mindful of what you're doing. So that what you're doing is what you're supposed to be actually doing. And the same thing, like you're saying, like is about that process, of identifying those things, like before you go to bed, that way tomorrow morning you wake up and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. That is a habit, right? And that's like the first thing that I identified for myself that was the most powerful thing, is that I started building habits for myself to start to kind of control the negative aspects of my ADHD and start to leverage the positive stuff. And that's exactly what I was like, all right, if I am running this group and I have my partner, we just took it over this past month, we want to start bringing some real structure and actionable things people can start to do to improve themselves. And that was it. I was like, all right, we're starting with habits, because if someone can build one solid habit that is something that they need right now to improve something that they're working on, for example, what you're talking about, they can have really drastically positive impacts on us if the understanding of how habits work is there, if the steps are kind of laid out for you, you have strategies to keep yourself accountable and on task, and tracking yourself to kind of motivate you to keep moving forward with it, so you can get to the point where that's an ingrained thing you do automatically. And if you don't do it, it throws you off your day. And I think that's the hardest part, is getting people with ADHD. I feel like it takes us a little bit longer to have an ingrained habit actually occur. But once we do, we have all these impulses, but if something is now habitual, that's it. Like and it's something positive and productive and effective and helpful. We're going into those things full steam ahead with like all of our energy and passion and all that stuff that we bring to the table that just kind of outmeasures the usual person. And so I think building those habits is like a huge thing, and things exactly like that are massively important for us.
Yeah. So you do coaching, you do a lot of phone coaching, in-person coaching, I guess. You've got the Facebook group where you're coaching people, helping them. Mm-hmm. Is it kind of like a mastermind sort of group where it's a private group and you're working with people in there?
So the group right now is a free, open, anyone can come in. We're just trying to build a community where people are like-minded. We go through the same issues. Even me and the other person, we have the same issues everyone else does. So we're just trying to make it somewhere that's positive, supportive, and actionable that people can help with. I do most of my coaching one-on-one over the internet. So doing video conferences once a week and daily kind of check-ins and stuff like that. And we are working on now is putting together like a 4 to 6 week masterclass specifically for individuals with ADHD. So, we're not saying like, if you're in this group, like you got to pay up to get help. But if you want to take that help to the next level and have, direct help and guidance and really detailed, comprehensive course, like that's what it's going to be about. So we're trying to put that out within the next month. We're almost done with that too. So
the benefit of having someone like you is someone who can be that extra little voice and that goes, Chris, you do those tasks today? How you doing, buddy? You staying on point?
Yep. Yeah. And it's the accountability and the established systems and processes that I have used, that others have used, that I've been able to help people with. So knowing that I'm doing the same thing that you're trying to do as an entrepreneur that we're trying to coach, like we're going towards the same goals. We want that thing that we're passionate about to become a success so we can live that life that we want to live. But I'm doing it on the same journey with the same issue that you have, which is kind of the issue. Is that I was looking around in the market, like last week I was trying to do some research, like who else is out there doing this exactly? And there's not many people out there that are ADHD entrepreneur coaches. And it's kind of baffling because even the people who don't have diagnosed ADHD that I know online, they feel like they do. Like they have a lot of the same symptoms and pain points as the ADHD audience. And it's like, why is this market so underserved? And then, I guess that kind of completely goes full circle with exactly how our schools are underserving them as well. But that's the thing. It's just, there's no one there. It's weird that
it's probably because a bunch of people with ADD went, hey, you know what? We should serve this market. Hey, look, a bunny.
Just get sidetracked so quick.
Hey, look, Facebook. Yeah. And I think it's harder in today's world because there's so much noise. There's so much attention grabbing media. There's so many ways, whether it's a TV, whether it's your iPad, whether it's your iPhone, whether it's, your wife, your kids, crazy politicians on TV. There's just so much noise and concept, and then there's the internet, of course. It's just, I like most people, I can wander the internet for like days and just go, what did I accomplish? I don't know. I looked at a bunch of stuff on the dark web and learned about whatever and whatever.
Yeah, and it's like the same thing as like marketers and gurus and like these strategists. Not that there's anything wrong with them. They're doing their job and they're doing their jobs well by getting our attention and getting us to say, this person has the answer for my problems. But at the same time, like unless you have your own your own path that you're trying to take and you're moving forward with that, then all you're ever doing is really, and I've seen so many people do this, especially in that first year of starting a business, where they're just trying to find all the answers outside without actually taking the action to move forward and learn for yourself. Because everything is not a one size fits all. It's like, although even if this person has a similar business to me, I'm a very different person, and how I deliver my information, how I connect with my audience, and who my audience is could be drastically different. And so whenever we get these ideas, and this is the one thing that was massive for me about like a year ago, was that once I started I kept doing that. Like I'd find this new thing, like someone is promising this is going to help you launch your next product and blah, 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 and like follow this process. And I would start doing it. And then I get to a point where I'm like, well, this person says I should be doing this. Let me go do that. Right. And it's like, after a certain point, I was like, all right, no, screw it. Any new idea that comes across my screen is I will write it down. I'll say why I wrote it down. And if I really think that's that damn important to learn more about, I'm going to schedule time to go and look at that, and only for that amount of time. Because if not, you're just so open to everyone's trying to steal your attention because that's what they need to build their business. And you need your attention to build yours.
And, you know, that's one of the things that I learned in managing my ADD was I would go to bed at night and I wouldn't be able to sleep. My brain would just be like running scenarios and running tomorrow's business by me. And I mean, I would dream about what meetings I was having the next day and what I needed to do in them. It was just the most insane thing ever. And my brain would be like, don't forget this, don't forget this, don't forget this, don't forget this. And I realized that what my brain was trying to do was overcompensate with my lack of attention, focus, and memory to help me remember something that's important. So what I learned to do was, if I'm laying in bed and the madman's running amok, I write down what the madman says. Okay, tomorrow, set that appointment with that one person. Tomorrow, set that proposal to that other person. Write that down. It's sitting by my bed. Nowadays, of course, you've got the phone that is usually in bed with you and just go beep, beep, beep. I usually use Google Keep as a way I used to take my notes and things that I need to do, shopping lists, etc. So I'll put it in Google Keep. And then what I've taught my brain is that, okay, I've written what you wanted down. You can back up off it. I'm not going to forget it because it's written. You can calm the hell down. Now, sadly, it comes up with other stuff, and I just have to keep writing stuff.
Endless stream.
But eventually, it wears itself down, and I can just go to sleep. And if it comes up, I can just go, whoa, hey, it's written down right there. Just backed up, keep calm and carry on.
Yeah, and that's the perfect way to deal with our negative symptoms that come on board. It's a matter of saying, this is what's happening. How can I quiet this? Or how can I, like, for me, like I lived in the same city my entire life. I just recently moved, but like when I was there, I couldn't tell you a street name. I can't tell you like my family's birthday or things like that, like these small details. So like I'd get in the car, my wife, who had just been living there for a year, and she's like, hey, let's go to, Home Depot on Route 1. How do I get there? I've driven past this damn place thousands of times because it's next to the mall. It's next to everything we do is on Route 1. And so I have to drive by it all the time. And I've been there probably 100 times. And like, that's just like, it's that simple stuff. So like, in order for me now, it's like, okay, when I go places, like when I'd be driving to a new place, I would start making sure I identified the landmarks, because that's the only way I can remember directions is, what do I see? And if I see it, it helps me remember how to get there. Yeah. Like it took me 4 years to be able to drive down to her house. Like her family was like an hour away. Took me 4 years to be able to drive there without a GPS.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's really sad.
Where if I drive someplace once, I pretty much have it. Second time, it's 100%. But I can't tell you what street I was on or, anything. And I'm really good with landmarks. I'm like, yeah, this looks really familiar. And I think we turn here. And so I do really well with that sort of visual learning. But like I live, like my old house, I remember I lived there for 2 years and I called Domino's and they'd be like, what's the cross streets? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know. Yeah. And I'd just be like, you have Waze or GPS or maps. Just work it out. This is your job, not mine. And I used to always be like, I really should figure out. I've lived here for like 2 years. I really should figure out what the cross street is. And of course, sometimes I'd be driving home in the car going, hey, look at the street sign and try and remember what the cross street is. And of course, then it's like puppy, dog, car, woman, and then you get home and you're like, you're supposed to look at the sign. And then after 500 times, you finally get that sign. Oh,
hell, it's like the same thing when it comes to like keys or ID badges or whatever. Like, every morning I lived a mile from where I worked, and every morning I would struggle to find my keys or my ID, and like the amount of times that would make me like 2, 3, 5 minutes late to work is just out of control. And it's like, why, it's just these simple things that, if we work on, they bring us more structure, more kind of, confidence in our abilities. Cause like if I never forgot my keys again, I would feel like a damn genius, because it's been a thing for me forever. And it's like these simple things that we can start to work on with just simple habits. It's a way to start dealing with these negative things that we have. That way we can just kind of be living with that positive gift that it is. Like, I mean, like, have you ever like had those times where like you're in that kind of like hyper focused states? And like that is like, I think it was the most frustrating when I first started doing this, like entrepreneurship stuff, is because you'd get it one day and you're like, oh man, I was so damn productive. Like I had a day, I think, actually the ebook that I talked about, I was going to write a small blog post, and then 3 hours later I had 18 pages written. And I'm like, holy crap. Okay, this is sick. But the thing is, like, it's annoying for us because it's not consistent, right? And it's about like trying to figure out what it is that helps us get into that state more frequently, more consistently, and being able to identify those, so that way you can always kind of make that setup happen for yourself to help you kind of always get in there, be more productive. And it's just simple things that I think people underestimate, the power of simple, tiny little habits or simple processes and how they really help us at ADHD, because neurotypical people don't typically need those things. And so we're always looking at advice from the perspective of people that are neurotypicals or for neurotypicals. And that's not us, right? You need to be going to the place, the people that understand you and how you work and how your brain works in order to kind of get the most results.
Do you find that a lot of meditation helps people that have ADD? I have a lot of friends that they love meditation and they say it calms them down.
Yeah. Every time that I either do yoga or meditation, I walk out almost feeling like I'm kind of high. And it reminds me of like the first time I got prescribed Adderall, because it's that high of like, and that it comes back to the whole concept of being a dopamine deficiency disorder. Like that's the reward center. That's what keeps us motivated. That's what gives us feeling like we're being productive or we succeeded at something. And we don't have that as much as others do. And some of us don't have it at all. And so by doing meditation and yoga, it's been scientifically proven. And that's why I chose to do it, because I'm trying to choose things that are specific for me. And every time I do it, it's like I walk out like on a new level of like, of being able to focus on something, of being able to pay attention, of being engaged. My mood is much more better and stable, all these different things. And it's kind of, meditation is huge. It's been a huge thing for me the past 3 months, because I started making it a habit 3 months ago. And that's where a lot of changes in my business started to happen, a lot of momentum, a lot more opportunities started opening up, because I could be more consistent, I could be more on task, and I can get more done and connect better with people.
Yeah, I'll never forget what my psychologist said to me. I said, I think of all this stuff, and I have this great scatter shotgun approach to stuff, and I have all these compartments and things that I track and things that I count. And he's like, "You count stuff, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I count, keep track of business stuff." He goes, "It wasn't for the fact that you did it for a business purpose, we'd probably have to commit you, because you just be counting for no reason. But the fact that you apply it to something and that serves a purpose is probably semi-okay." He goes, "I can assure you, though, that you think you're being ultra efficient, ultra hyper efficient, and ultra managing this whole, you're keeping all the plates spinning, if you will." He goes, "You're not." He goes, you're wrecking, and you end up wasting more of your time trying to keep the madness going than really managing what's going on." I'm like, "No, you're full of crap." And he goes, "You know what?" He goes, "Go home and start keeping a journal of what different cycles of thinking processes you go with and what you're worrying about every day. Go home and keep a journal of that for the next week or so. And then look at that journal and see what you get." I was in shock. I was literally every day at the same time thinking about the same worries, the same problems, and then moving on to the next one. And it was like 1 o'clock. This is the problem Chris worries about. 1 o'clock. 10 a.m. This is the problem. And my brain was just freaking cycling that crap. And so, of course, eventually I had some Zoloft that kicked in, and I'll never forget the first day where I went clear, and I could stop thinking about everything and just sit there and go, I'm not thinking of anything right now. And it was like awesome.
Yeah.
Like for the first time, the madman, I was loose. And you know, he was right. He was right. You when you're ADD, you go through this thing where you think you're being ultra efficient and you're not getting done. And that's what I found once I went clear, was that so much of just the madness in my brain, I thought I was accomplishing a lot of stuff. I thought I was being a great multitasker. Turns out I wasn't getting much done.
Yeah, and like it's the multitasking thing is a thing that a lot of people like to tout as like a strength. Like they have ADHD and like, oh, I can multitask for days, and I
can multitask everything.
I don't know how to call you out on your crap without coming off like an ass, but it's not a thing, man. Like multitasking is done by computers, not human brains. We're not capable of it, you know. And it's like
we don't even do it well, to my understanding. And some of the recent psychology I read, we really suck at it, and it's one of those things that we perceive that we're good at, but we're just being idiots about it.
Yeah. And it's like if we're, you know, it's the same as it's like how people like will put TV on in the background while they're doing something and they think they're watching TV, but they actually don't really know what's happening. You mean, how many times, I mean, at least for me, like I'll be watching with my wife and then someone that I'm working with is like messaging me on Facebook and I'm looking down and I'm texting. And I look back up and I'm like, and I was actually looking at the TV in the background, but so focused on this that I have no idea what happened in the past 10 minutes of the show, you know, and that is exactly what's happening when we're trying to multitask either in our business or in our house or errands or whatever we're doing. It's you're literally just doing everything you're trying to do at a really poor level and you're not getting shit done.
Yeah.
It's a sad truth.
Well, I think it's a good business you've gotten into because you got an endless client base. And when it comes to people that are trying to start their own companies or manage their own companies well, you've got a lot of great CEOs that with the CEO disease, they call it, you can definitely tap into.
Yeah. And it's something that I'm genuinely, it's, you know, I used to be a biologist. I used to do pharmacology research and all that kind of stuff. And then I was a teacher and it's like, I've been just trying to find the thing that I love doing. And it's like, I love what I'm doing now. And I love working with people. It's the hands-on one-on-one kind of stuff. It's just like, I could do that for days and days and days. And I love it. So it's like, one, finding out that there is a great market for what I love doing is probably the best feeling ever. You know, it's like, sweet, I can do this. There's a market and I love doing it. I'm golden.
And what's probably good for you, you know, being afflicted with the ADD disease as well, like I am, is sometimes the teacher is the student where you're helping people and coaching people. And then it's helping keep you on track. Cause you're like, I need to do more of that too, you know, sort of thing. And so that's probably a great place to be with your business.
Definitely a lot of learning moments happening on the calls for myself too. That's the cool part though. It's like, you know, they'll tell a story about something or they'll explain the way they're working on something, the way they think about something. I'm like, that is such a great idea. And they're like, oh, sweet, thanks. And they're like, wait, like what? I'm like, hey man, I'm like, listen, if you have great ideas, I'm going to take them too. Like, yeah, I'm not going to like, oh no, you keep all the good stuff. Like, I'm going to use that too. That's great.
Yeah, totally. Well, Nicholas, it's been great to have you on the show. Hopefully we've helped a lot of people. Give us some of your plugs so people can take and join your like Facebook group and get involved with you and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So again, the website is strivenlife.com. It's STRIVEN. The ebook is strivenlife.com/ADHD Advantage. And the Facebook group is the ADHD Entrepreneur and Career Community. I can shoot you a link for that afterwards if you want to plug it in there. But yeah, that's it. This month in the group is all about building better habits for you and overcoming your ADHD. And every month after this is going to have the same kind of sequence of themes, an itinerary for the month, what we're doing on what days are days that you need to be really attentive to for the actions you need to be taking, as well as 2 hot seat calls a month. So that's where you get to get on the call with me and another ADHD coach to directly help you and go live in the group. So that way you're getting the benefit of 2 free coaching sessions in one, as well as helping everyone else in the group. Because if you're struggling with something, there's someone else in this group that's struggling with it too. So you putting yourself out there is only a benefit for you and everyone else.
So focus for just a few minutes and go click on Nicholas's links. And then once you do that, you're going to be in the group and they'll be able to help you even if you get a little scatterbrained.
My pleasure.
But I think more that people address this sort of thing, understand that it's not, and I think the word disease stigmatizes it too, because we're different and we're good at it, and it's not really a disease. And I think the stigma of it is one of the bad things we have to deal with, and we have to kind of overcome and realize that, you know, for me, I've realized that I have really special superpowers, if you will. I have like these superpowers like Superman, where I can do stuff really cool, but Superman isn't so great with like kryptonite. You know, it doesn't work. He doesn't work well with kryptonite, but everything else, you know, he's pretty good with the whole X-ray eyes and the leaping over tall buildings and flying through the air. He's really good at that stuff, pulling, you know, picking cars off of people, but he's probably not good at paperwork. You know, in fact, if I remember, either him or Spider-Man are just really bad reporters, and they're always getting yelled at by their editors. So, you know, there's an example right there. So I encourage everyone to go check out Nicholas, and thank you for being on the show today and all that good stuff. And be sure to check out his links. If you have any questions, you can, of course, contact him, or you can contact me. Do they know where to contact you on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So on Facebook, it is just strivenlife.com is the Facebook page. And on Twitter, it is twitter.com/mystrivenlife.
There you go. There you go. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We certainly appreciate it, guys. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe us to the YouTube channels, hit that bell notification button. If you would, go to patreon.com/Chris Voss, and also go to iTunes, Google Play, and now on TuneIn for the podcast. You can subscribe there, and we certainly appreciate you. If you can, tell your friends, neighbors, relatives, dog, cats, cousins, animals, freaking insects that wander through your home. Tell them, hey, cockroach, subscribe to the Chris Voss Show. We certainly appreciate it. Anyway, thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Nicholas.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.